Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmidty, Swanee and Clarkey visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right. How are we all? Good to see you both.
Hello, hello.
Hello. So good to see you. Yes.
So, what's been happening since we last caught up? Since I was last in a car and a toilet.
Oh, wasn't that
Oh,
nice?
God, yeah, I
The
forgot about
toilet finish was a solid one. Well, a little too
No
much
pun
information,
intended.
But funny.
How does it feel
we
to
had
be
a
back in your normal studio?
Oh, it feels more controlled. It feels less like I'm going to lose internet at any second.
That
and
must have been making you very anxious.
It was
less
absolutely fun.
distractions.
I won't have to mute to get rid of every time a car or a bike goes past. But I also won't have some little old man shuffling up to the car and giving me a small conniption. But yeah, well, it was fun. It was entertaining anyway.
Yes.
What
it
about you
was.
guys?
Not a lot. Just finished the Christmas holidays, which was nice. We had a few days caravanning and back to it.
Lovely. Back at work, your favourite.
Love it.
Bet you were hanging out to get back into the office, as was I.
Yes.
And Carla's always in her office. She's permanently office bound.
We just went to Rodo and had a little bit of a trip over there with the family, and we're back. And now it feels like, it sort of switches mode, and you can sense that sort of change in everybody, even in the shops and stuff. It's sort of back to business and that sort of grind. Not quite grind, but, little by little start to wind up for the school year and fall back to work. Yeah, it's already there. It's in the air.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to forget holidays, doesn't it?
No.
Does it?
Doesn't.
All right.
Off quick.
Cool. So what are we drinking today? I'm not in a car, so I can drink, which is good. Because I was so sober in the last episode and a bit.
Yes. We're having a little gin and tonic today.
Refreshing.
Which is very nice. Yeah, it's a little bit earlier than what we normally record, so we just thought we'd take it easy with a big gin and tonic.
And you,
How
Carla?
about you, Carla?
I'm 3 hours, and I'm 3 hours earlier than that, so I'm on a Diet Coke.
Oh, you surprised me.
I know. I'm sorry to disappoint everybody.
I'm liking the consistency.
It's all fun.
Oh, actually, I lie. It's a Coke. No sugar. What do you call it? I did lie.
Well, same, isn't it, really? We used to just call them DCs.
Absolutely, a DC. What about you, Schmidty?
Oh, well, I'm alternating between a 500ml can of V to get my energy up and my current favourite, a zero sugar vodka cruiser, particularly like the mango raspberry flavour. Delicious. And the good thing about these is they are one standard.
Is that a different case to the...
Yes, it's a new case.
Yeah, right.
It is. I went out and bought this case myself today in preparation for not only today in terms of our recording, but also it's my niece's 21st. If the GHHS guidance and COVID guidance doesn't change between now and Saturday, we're having a little birthday party for Hen. You know Hen. Yeah. She was our star, first guest star. She was 21 some time ago, but thanks to COVID, we're just going to get in the timey-wimey machine and do a lovely 1920s Gatsby-type theme 21st for her on Saturday. And I'm pretty sure some of those kids will like cool aunties vodka cruisers, and I won't be breaking out the cowboy cocksuckers.
with the old Baileys.
With the off
Baileys.
The Baileys wasn't off. It was just don't mix it with Madeira. It was the lesson.
Oh, that's right. You changed what was in the bottle. That's correct. I did try something this week that I'm really embarrassed about this story. So, when we were at Rottnest, someone offered me an Aperol Spritz. And people offer them to me all the time. And I always say, oh, no, I really don't like them. Thank you very much.
It's like people offer me lines of Coke quite often too. And I say, no, thank you. I don't like it.
And I'm a bit judgy. And I have to say I have judged people because I think, oh, God, it's so obvious. You all just drink that. It tastes terrible. And the thing was, I was convinced.
It doesn't. I've got used to it.
But I thought it was something different. So I'm so embarrassed. My story
Campari.
is correct.
Yeah.
About
Yeah.
20 years ago, I
Yeah.
have this memory is so clear. I was in Mykonos. No, it wasn't in Mykonos. Sorry, that's not that clear. I was in Santorini with my stepbrother, and we were sat watching the sunset. And I had a lady serve me a Campari, and my stepbrother loved it, and it was like poison to me. So this whole
Awful.
time I've been going, no, don't want it, don't like it, don't like it. And I suddenly thought, God, I just sort of did it under duress, and I went,
This is quite nice.
this is not what I thought it was.
Delicious.
So I'm embarrassed for every judgy look where I've just gone, oh yes, let's have an Aperol Spritz because that's so imaginative. Turns out I quite like them. Miss Judgy.
They are amazing.
So yeah, so I've had quite a few of those and they're lovely, as it turns out.
Campari's disgusting.
But why did I think it was Campari? Because the orange, I guess, right? Must have been the
Yeah.
orange connection I've
But-
made. Italian
Maybe,
orange.
maybe.
Campari's a darker orange, so that's
Close
a
to
bitter, really bitter taste.
Who the hell's
in
drinking Campari? That is,
Oh.
that's still with me 20 years later, that memory. What? And I only ever had it
Don't
that
they
once.
make it with persimmon?
That could be
I don't know.
Oh, maybe it is because of
a
the colour.
punishment for someone.
It's filthy.
Yes!
I thought it.
That is it. I
thought
like
it was
it.
made of. Yeah, I thought it was made from orange.
I thought it was made from grapefruit because it's got that real bitterness to it. But
It does.
do you
have.
boys remember the Foxtel Christmas party we had at the National Gallery?
The one where we got the limo and
The
Tony
limo.
took us up
That's
onto
dating
the. Yeah, we got a limo and he drove us up onto the footpath and dropped us off right out the front.
It sounds
might
like you're
be
going
new.
to a school formal.
I wasn't in that limo. I remember walking in and it was all very posh and they served Carla Campari
Whoa.
punches or whatever
Yeah.
they were. And that was my first experience with Campari. And
Punch in the nuts.
I felt like you know, Tom Hanks in Big when he has the he has the caviar and he goes
Yeah.
blah, 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 and he's wiping his tongue to get it off. That's exactly how I felt about Campari. So I know what you mean.
Oh, God.
Funny.
There we are, trying to be sophisticated. I'm
I
like,
know.
oh, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever had.
I know, I just think,
Oh.
God, I was being such an asshole about it.
I've just Googled it and it says Campari has a strong bittersweet flavour with notes of orange
Oh,
peel,
shit.
cherry, clove, and cinnamon.
Oh.
It's one of the most bitter
I'd go so far as to
liquors
say just
used in
bitter.
modern
I
drinks.
just say bitter
Yeah.
orange peel, yeah. Yum.
No sweet, yeah.
Piss off. Drop it on the floor.
When I first started going out with Tony, he and his friends were big Aperol Spritz lovers.
Yeah.
And I did exactly the same thing,
No,
Carla.
not for me.
He's like,
No.
no,
No,
don't
no,
like it.
that's
No,
me.
I don't like it.
I've been doing that for
No.
years, like years and years now.
And they're like, you must have it. It's lovely. I'm like, no. And same. It was like, oh, fine, all right. And then I had it and I thought,
Oh, actually.
Ooh.
it's
Hang on a
okay.
minute.
And now I quite like an Aperol Spritz.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, God.
same thing. So I totally get you.
So apologies,
All right.
everybody I've ever judged. I normally
No,
do.
fair enough.
Not really. Some of them would have deserved it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone peddling freaking Campari deserved that.
That's
Anyway.
right.
Shall we introduce ourselves? I'm Schmidty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarky. And together we are
Trial by Wine. All right. So, if you two are ready, I have a story for you.
Oh, I'm ready and waiting.
Born
Go
ready.
for it.
Yes.
All right, cool. I shall launch straight in. Okay, so our last few cases have delved into the depths of humanity. And I was looking for something a bit more, funny, upbeat, but I didn't find it. So I found this beauty, which is totally bonkers.
Great. We like bonkers.
Bonkers is the best word for it. And there is a bit of a double entendre
Ooh.
to it. So when we get to the bit, you'll
Ooh.
understand why bonkers is the perfect adjective for this story.
Ooh.
Anyway, it's historic, so we can laugh a bit more at it.
Beauty.
Jump into the timey-wimey machine with me and let's go back and imagine ourselves in the picturesque countryside of 19th century Switzerland.
Can I just ask? I know you're painting us a beautiful picture now, but did you say timey-wimey or timey-winey?
Timey-wimey, but you can say timey-winey if you like. 'cause
Yeah,
that
I'd
will
like
help
a
as well.
time machine that takes you around in time and has wine.
Wine. Good point.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Try
I've
by
never
whining.
seen any wine on the TARDIS. And that timey-wimey was a Doctor Who reference. So, we need to have a
Uh-huh.
word with that doctor. He needs to get some
Yes.
wine on board.
Yes, and it can't be
Right,
a tiny
so-
whiny.
No.
There'll be none
Massive.
of that. Yeah. Yes. I like a wine glass that is a TARDIS, so it looks small on the outside, but is massive on the inside.
That is the
That's
best
genius.
wine glass I've ever heard of. And actually, I forgot to tell you this little story, guys. But I received a Christmas present today, which is not quite relevant, but it will be later. Or no, it won't, but it's still funny. You know, when we did the Paul's story about the Japanese lady,
Yes.
something Ebe, Asa Ebe.
Asa.
Yeah.
I would like to remind you, does anyone remember, apart from Paul, in fact, that just means Carla, do you remember what the sentence for Asa Ebe was by Paul?
No.
Oh, come on.
I can't remember. Why didn't she? Hang on.
Paul,
Oh,
do
she
you
chopped
remember-
off. Oh, didn't she? Wasn't she the penis eater?
She was a
Ate a
penis
bag of
sucker
dicks.
or
No,
whatever.
sorry, not eat a bag of dicks.
Eat a bag of dicks, right.
That was it.
So I received a lovely Christmas present from a friend of mine, Peter DeRike, today, and he always goes out of his way to find things amusing. And it's a mug, and it's very pretty. And obviously we haven't released that episode yet. I don't think that's Battered Sav coming your way soon. And however, what a Deirdre Chambers, what a coincident moment. Eat a bag of dicks.
Brilliant.
What is it? Is
Brilliant.
that what's around it? Is it like a holly
It's a
Is it
very
a
pretty
rainbow of
floral
dicks?
wreath?
No, it's a floral wreath. It's really pretty,
Oh.
and it's got no dicks in it at all.
Oh.
So I
an
think the
opportunity
idea is
missed.
because it's in
You
this
don't realise
cursive,
what it's saying to you. Yeah.
you don't
yeah.
realise what it says until you look closely, and then you realise my
Oh.
mug is telling you to eat a bag of dicks.
Oh.
So I just saw it.
Well,
and
that'll
thought,
go straight
gotta
to
share
the
that.
work office, won't it?
Oh, absolutely, right up there with I couldn't give a fuck about this place, which is a cup I think. I think it's something that one of my sisters gave me many years ago.
Yeah,
That you
Anyhow.
bought the whole line of merch for, where you've got the cups, the mugs, the scarf.
I digress. Sorry, but I just saw it and thought I meant to talk to you about that before. All right, so back on my story. Now, Clarkie, I thought this story was quite apropos, given your recent joy in asking me questions related to Christianity and faith.
Right.
So I thought I'd expand a bit on the theme and cover a religious motivated crime. So apart from religion, this one's a cracker.
Which one?
Oh, well, I'll get there. You're right. Which one? Apart from religion, this story also has themes of group hysteria, like our mates the Erickson twins. Remember Folie à Deux?
Yep.
Yes.
And I would
yes.
say it's a cautionary tale about getting sucked into other people's hysteria. Just to my sources, I read quite a lot of articles on it. My sources are Dr. Romeo Vitelli, who is a psychologist and blogger, Wikipedia, the Psychoanalytic Review, and the casualcriminalist.com podcast. And he was very funny, by the way.
Just on the getting sucked into other people's hysteria, is that like if you go protesting in the streets of Melbourne because Novak Djokovic's visa gets cancelled?
Sorry, I was just filling my eat a bag of dicks because that's how I feel about Djokovic right now. But yes, it is exactly
you
like that.
You don't want to go and grab a flag and go out and dance? Because that's the way it made me feel.
I'm so offended. Anyway.
Oh.
Apparently they were jumping
let's
on
go and
cars and
dance.
everything. Like,
Good
come on.
nuts.
Get sucked into the hysteria, mate.
My story is set in the small town of Wildesbach in the Swiss parish of Trulikon. I don't know if that's how you say it, but that's how I say it.
Nailing it.
Yeah.
100%.
And I did try to find it on Google Maps, but totally failed. Not sure it still exists. I believe it's somewhere near Zurich. The town was a very small hamlet, sparsely populated by farmers, and probably a bit like I imagine our trial by wine peasant world to be. As I said, this is a bonkers story, and it gets pretty violent, so strap in, and here we go.
Oh, jeepers. Okay.
On Christmas Day, that's right, Christmas Day, 1794, Margaretta Peter was born. Margaretta was the youngest of 6 children, 1 boy and 5 girls. Her mother died shortly after Margaretta was born, and as the youngest, she was well looked after by her father, brother, and sisters. Her father, John, was a Zwinglian Protestant. Zwingli was a contemporary of Luther, who is the person who founded Lutheranism, and had very similar views on how the scriptures and Bible should be interpreted, although he and Luther differed on their view of the Eucharist, with Zwingli determining that the body of Christ was symbolic of a mystical transformation of a congregation when they took part in the Eucharist, whereas Luther was much more literal in his view and believed that Christ's body was somehow literally part of the bread and wine at the Last Supper. Got it?
What?
Yes, kind of. Yeah.
Really? It was literally part of the supper.
Yeah.
Is that the part I've got to get? Yeah.
So literal, yeah.
Did you say he was more realist or
No, just
more
that
literalist?
Luther and then subsequently Lutheranism, which I'll talk about in a second, took the scriptures at their word. So it's a very literal translation, or it's a literal interpretation. So that is the word of God. Whereas this other chap, Zwingli, said, not on that one, though. I can't really come at the fact that every time we do Eucharist, there is some part of Jesus's body.
We're cannibals.
But yeah, whatever. He couldn't really come at that. So he saw it more as a transformation of the congregation, or even the people, the disciples at the Last Supper, to say they had become, by partaking in this supper, you become the blood and body of Christ. So it's slightly different thinking. One thing they both did agree on, though, is that, and this is where, if we talk about the schisms of Christianity, this is where Lutheranism departed from the Roman Catholic Church on multiple things, but on the tenets of celibacy. So Lutheran pastors can get married. They don't have the same belief about a priest having to be celibate, or a nun, right? Okay.
And not even a nun, just out there getting around. Wow. Well, not getting around, but perhaps getting married.
What about a priest and a nun? Is that okay?
Well, I don't think they have. The Lutherans don't have priests; they have pastors, and I'm not sure what they have in terms of females.
Yeah, we don't have nuns.
I don't know if they have nuns. I think that's a Roman Catholic thing.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay. So at the time, Roman Catholicism and the German Reformed Church, who were Protestants, were the foremost churches in Germany and the northern European countries. And in fact, several wars had been waged over 2 centuries.
I was trying to work out who the other two were. When you said foremost, I'm like, I think you only said 2. And then I
not
realised
4.
that you meant foremost. Yeah, that's right. I was just like, what? Foremost?
No. So pretty much Europe had Catholics and Protestants. And there were at least 2 centuries of war raged over various Christian traditions. And I've got to say, it never ceases to amaze me that, given that Christians fundamentally believe that killing someone else is a mortal sin, that we somehow justify this idea of killing someone else because they don't believe what we believe, which is just ludicrous.
Love thy neighbour unless they have a different religion.
Well, if they have a different idea, because they didn't even have a different religion. They all believed in Christ. Some don't believe in the Virgin Mary. Some do. You know, they have different ideas around, and this is the schism.
Some religions do. Woo. Some religions don't. Woo.
Yeah. Anyway, for me personally, because I know you like to razz me about being a person of faith, but I care more about the faith than the institution. So I'm not interested so much in the business. So whether it's the Catholic Church or whatever, I don't care about the business side of it. I'm much more interested in my relationship with God, Jesus, whatever, right? So faith. Anyway, that's just my view. But if you read up on the various schisms of Christianity, you'll see that what drives most of the theological division is around whether the church and state should be the same or separate. So it's all about power and authority. Yep. In the case of Lutheranism, the belief is that the church and state are one. So whereas the Catholic Church keeps the authority of the Catholic Church separate to the state. So the government, for instance. You know what I mean?
Unless you confess it and then you don't have to tell or something. Isn't there something like that?
No. That's exactly your point, which is that I think, actually, I think what you're referencing is, I'm going to call it out, the endemic pedophilia and child abuse in the Catholic Church. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, no, I think it was more about the secrecy of confession. So if you confess something that might be illegal, you don't have to. The priest doesn't necessarily.
Because the whole point is, if I want to actually tell someone my sins and I know they're going to go to the police, I'm not going to tell them my sins. And if a priest is a vessel to help me unburden myself and repent or whatever, then by betraying that trust, and I get the ethical issues around it, but by betraying that trust, I'm much less likely to tell them that that's what I've done. Going back to what I was going to say, though, about the Catholic Church and the separation of state over the authority of the Catholic Church, which is the Catholic Church obviously did have this institutionalized abuse going on for many years. And instead of going to the secular powers of authority and saying, we've got a guy doing the wrong thing, we're going to report him, they didn't do that, and they kept it cloistered inside the church, and they moved them around. And they, frankly, in my opinion, did the wrong thing. And that is the lesson for the Catholic Church to have to deal with. And that's not going to finish. There's going to be repercussions of that behaviour for a long time. I'm calling that out, Paul, before you start whatever you're going to start.
I'm not starting. I'm just listening. Thank you for sharing. It was nice to hear your thoughts on that.
As I said, my faith is separate from the way I view the business of a church. So I can see all of the wrongdoing of the institution of a church and the business side of a church, but it doesn't stop me having a faith in Jesus, the afterlife, etc. All right. So another significant difference between the Catholicism and Lutheranism is around the interpretation of the Bible. So Lutherans believe that the First and Second Testament and the Scriptures are the ultimate authority, the literal word of God to be followed, whereas the Catholic Church includes tradition in the authority. So, for instance, as I said before, Lutherans aren't interested in celibacy for pastors, as there's nothing in the Scripture that says that it's a requirement to, be a disciple of Jesus. Whereas the Catholic Church practices the tradition of celibacy and recognises the authority of that tradition. Do you get me? And therein lies pretty much what I just talked about, where if you have institutionalized a whole lot of stuff as tradition, good or bad, and that is what you recognize as the authority of your institution, that can be very dangerous. Margaretta was raised as Zwingli Protestant and displayed a heightened religious zeal from early childhood. By the age of 6, she was reading the Bible and gathering family members to her sermons. Do you remember when you were a kid? I know we did this.
She sounds like great fun.
Exactly. We used to do puppet shows. We used to do a little dance. I remember my nieces and nephews get all the adults in the front room. We're putting on a 5-minute show. Thank God none of them were religious zealots is all I can say. I don't think I would have been keen on those little shows. Anyway, she has been described as highly intelligent and precocious and had a great deal of power over her older siblings. Whilst her 2 older sisters got married, they still deferred to her religious opinions and moral teachings, and the unmarried sisters became her disciples. Her father said of her, "I am assured that my youngest daughter was set apart by God for some extraordinary purpose." So they're all believing that she is very special. Along with regular prayer sessions, she also advised her family that they should live in accord with Christ's teachings, albeit as defined by her. And when she took her first communion, the Eucharist, she clearly displayed to the congregation her religious zealotry and divine joy at receiving the body of Christ. So she just was like, woohoo! I got the Jesus in me. I got the Jesus in me. I got the Jesus in me, etc. Now, I remember my...
Super freak. Super freak. She's super
freaky. Ow. Yes. Now, I remember my first communion, and I've got to say, my experience was quite different. I was much more interested in the really pretty dress that my mum made for me, and the presents that I was going to get given, and the little after communion party that we had. So I think it's pretty clear I wasn't having a liminal experience at the time. Sorry about that. Okay. So in 1816, her uncle invited her to live with him in the nearby town of Rudolfingen.
Because your uncle always invites you to go and live with him as well.
Yes.
Would you like to come and live with me, little niece?
I didn't actually finish the sentence because I was too busy laughing at Rudolfingen.
Rudolfingen.
Sorry. And act as his housekeeper. So.
Oh, Evan, how lovely.
I know. Kind.
That's very generous of her.
Kind.
Come and live with me and be some slave labour.
Pretty much, yeah. And so she was, I think, 17 at the time, yeah. So she's 17, and whilst I haven't read anything to actually say this, I'm going to exercise a little bit trial by wine conjecture and suggests that she's
Nice.
very likely at the time to be having a few teenage dirtbag thoughts.
Oh.
Oh, she's
Ah.
17. She's in a new town, new people.
She's at Rudolph Fingen, isn't
She's
she?
at Rudolph Fingen, that's right. And we'll probably get someone at some point say, it's
if that doesn't give you the
Rudolph
horn, what
Fingen.
will?
It's Rudolph Fingen. It's not Rudolph Fingen, you ridiculous Australians. We know. Sorry about that. Well, I don't
We
know,
know.
but it's still funny.
No.
Anyway.
Thank you for learning us.
Anyway, all I'm trying to say is that at that time, it wouldn't be unusual for a 17-year-old to have hormonal changes, and she's well pubescent at this point, and she's probably thinking about sexy time, on and off. If I'm right, and her innermost thoughts were of a more base nature, it wasn't a great thing for her to then come into contact with a pietist religious community and to attend their services.
What does that mean?
Oh, I'm about to tell you, Carla. I'm glad you asked.
Thanks for asking.
The pietists, the pietists were extremely fundamental Lutheran sect that was spreading across many parts of Europe at the time. Now, I asked a person who professionally deals with theology about pietists versus Lutherans, and they describe Lutherans as pretty run-of-the-mill, church-going Christians, Protestants, ordinary, versus pietists, and the quote was, "They're a whole other band of nutbaggery."
Is that God who spoke to
Nutbaggery.
you?
Yes.
No, I do not have. And here's the next line,
Is that
expanding
what
on
it
this.
says on their churches? Like, welcome to the Church of Pietry, a whole nother band of nutbaggery.
Nutbag.
I'd almost
should.
go to that church if it was a real one.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would.
Expanding on that quote.
Or, what about a whole nother brand of nut punchery?
Yeah, I thought the same. When it was said, I thought that's funny. I've got to put that in, nutbaggery. Expanding on that, though, because I said that doesn't really give me as much as I was hoping to go on. They said pietists thought they were on speed dial to God. So now I've read that the movement spoke in tongues.
Love to see that phone.
Yep. And
In those days, was there a phone, actually? Interestingly.
no. The
And not even a dial one.
That's right.
Not a speed.
Point is, they believe they have a direct connection with God, and God is telling them stuff directly, not through interpretation,
Via cans and string.
via visions and speaking in tongues and receiving the Holy Spirit, etc., etc.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
And yes, I've read the movement spoke in tongues and were much more extreme in their views on how to live a pious life. And then Wikipedia, who is probably slightly better at the definition of pietists than the person I was talking to, provided the following on their reaction to pietists at the time by their contemporaries. So this is what people in other, like the Lutherans and other people, thought about pietists at the time. Authorities within state-endorsed churches were suspicious of pietist doctrine, which they often viewed as a social danger, as it seemed either to generate an excess of evangelical fervour and so disturb the public tranquility, or to promote a mysticism so nebulous as to obscure the imperatives of morality.
Right.
Put another way, pietist mysticism did less to reinforce the moral law than to take its place. The principle of guidance by inner light was often a signal to follow the most intense of inner sentiment, the supremacy of feeling over reason. Pietists believed that if they had a mystical experience and they heard the word of God or an instruction from God directly, they could act on that as supported by moral law. So if God tells me to eat a bag of dicks, then I should,
That's what I shall do.
and there is nothing wrong with that because God told me to do it.
And when you say, if God tells you that, is it if the voices in your head say,
Yes.
Schmidty, this is God, eat a bag of dicks, you can say that
God told me to do it, and therefore it's fine. That's right. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
right.
exactly the point. Yes.
Like so many of our murderers who say that God told me to.
Jerry, I think
Yes.
last week, was it Dan or Dam? I couldn't remember the name of the voice in the driver's head. Carla's story. Mark
yes.
Winger. Not Mark Winger,
Yeah, it
but
was
the other
Dan.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had a few people who've had
Yeah.
voices, but they haven't claimed to be God. They've been someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, this exposure to pietism radically changed Margaretta's personality, so much so that her own family were disturbed. she became despondent where before she'd been a happy and joyful person. Because, in her own words, God was revealing himself to her and making her more aware of her own sinful nature.
Oh.
Put it
Again.
away, God.
Yep, I'm going to draw a short bow on that
Jesus.
and suggest that the contradiction of her own sexual nature and God's will as prescribed through pietism led to a significant conflict within her. She was,
God's Willie.
I don't think she wanted to have sex
He's
with God.
revealing himself. No, but he's revealing himself to her.
I think that says more about the turn of phrase of the time than how we would see that now. Anyway,
Okay.
so in 1817, she returns to Wildesbach and establishes herself as a revivalist to preach the word of God. And as allegedly, she was asked to leave another group because she'd been having visions and God was telling her stuff. And the leader's like, no, could you please leave? So she got chucked out of one bunch of religious people. So she's like, that's it. I'm going to go do my own thing. So while she'd been away, her father in Rudolfinger, her father had hired 3 new servants, Heinrich Ernst, Ursula Kundig, and Margaret Jugly. I'm going to say that's probably wrong. Who all fell in with her religious fervour pretty quickly. Also, her own family thought she was some kind of messiah. So in a small household like that, where everyone thinks she has a direct line to God and in lieu of any other stimulus, you can see how this took off with them. There's nothing else going on.
Are you telling us another story about a cult?
Yeah, pretty much. So Margaret had epilepsy.
Good.
And she hoped Margaretta could cure it through her prayers. Heinrich was just really, really loyal to the Peter
Fair
family.
chance.
And Ursula was so enamored, she asked Margaretta to be her spiritual guide through life and eternity. Ursula was so into Margaretta.
It's a big commitment.
I know, eternity.
Yeah. Fuck that. I'm out.
Ursula was so into Margaretta and her divinity that she said that Christ revealed himself in the flesh through her, and that through her many thousands of
Stop it,
souls were
Christ.
saved. Ursula
Christ, a flasher.
said, I can see that
Fuck off,
Margaretta
Christ. Stop flashing.
is a
sorry.
representative of Christ on earth, and as a result of that, she is saving many thousands of souls, sorry, not lives. Now, I know that we like to make shit up at times, and we also live in an age where we look for more empirical proof for statements like this. But it wasn't really far off some of the propaganda I've read on Facebook, and continue to be amazed by people who blindly believe it. So to your, point about people who protest about bloody a tennis player.
They were just having a
Your
day.
mate.
Or just, people who believe whatever they read is really what I'm saying. It's not an old or new phenomena. It's been around for a long time. Sorry, it's an old phenomena, actually, not a new phenomena.
What?
What?
Why were you sort of alluding to her going through puberty when she went to Rudolph Finger?
No, it was more just she was of an age where she was
finger.
most likely. So what we have with this girl is we have years and years of her as a prepubescent child, arguably quite innocent about the ways of the world, being in love with the Bible and religion, and
Yes.
There's a transition, though, I think, from the time she's probably hit, puberty and until she's 17, where she starts to have normal feelings about sexual desire, etc., which, when you align that with this really harsh, really evangelical pietism, which is basically thou shalt not have these thoughts, you are a sinner.
Right.
It's the problem for her at this point is she's conflicted because, like most people in a really, really, strict religion, will see themselves as a sinner because they're told they are. Okay, so she comes.
So it's all about don't do anything.
Yeah.
And if you're having a thought,
and so she comes from being this really happy-go-lucky, I got the Jesus in me girl, to I'm a terrible sinner and I'm going to damnation, and so that almost catapults her into I'm going to go a little over the top the other way to try and compensate for it a bit. That's just my read of the behaviour.
Yeah, I get that. Yep.
Okay. So anyway, I was just saying about this whole nonsense about saying thousands of souls were saved. Faith isn't about needing proof and just believing. But I have to say, I want a little bit more to back this statement up. She's the embodiment of Christ and she saved thousands of souls. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no fact.
Well, no fact. And look, when I was doing my catechism as a young girl, all of the saints I grew up with at least performed a miracle. No, but we had miracles,
All the saints I grew
Exactly, though. I did. I grew up with a ton of saints.
You had a better caliber of saint in my day.
Well, we did.
You guys did.
That's exactly my point. She hasn't turned water to wine. She hasn't cured a leper. She hasn't done anything. I just want to see a little bit of that.
Well, there's no proof of it.
I know, and that's the question about faith
saved
and believing.
thousands of souls.
Apparently so. Yeah. On the word of Ursula. Anyway, unsurprisingly, word spread of Margaretta's divination, and the household received visits from religious people from all over the area, all gathering to hear her sermons. Wilder's book was too small for Margaretta by this time, and in 1820 she took her show on the road, travelling across the country preaching. And it is interesting because Lutherans believe that the scriptures are literally the word of God and ultimate authority. And I would be interested to know what she was actually saying in these sermons and the form her revival took. And I couldn't find anything on that. And so I'm having a guess that she was going around saying, God's spoken to me, and this is how you should interpret the scriptures, suggesting that she was a direct line to God, so she knew more, and so this is what you should do. Anyway, she sometimes travelled alone on her preaching gigs, but also took her devoted sister Elizabeth and Ursula, the crazy servant, with her and built up quite the following, which didn't go unnoticed by the authorities. Remember, Lutherans connect the state and the church authority together, so having some rando running around telling everyone it's not quite right and you should believe X, Y, and Z would actually be a bit of a threat to civil harmony. Anyway.
It's a form of terrorism.
But does that mean that the Lutherans are running the state in that area?
Yeah, it's very similar to the Church of England.
Okay.
The Queen is the head of the church and head of state. So they are interconnected, It was during the course of her travelling show. I'm sorry, I just keep calling it a gig, a show. It just makes me feel better about it somehow. Anyway.
I hope it's a big top tent that she does her show in.
I'll tell you what, it reminds me of, I don't know if you guys saw, there was a good, but there was a good Netflix show, a remake of Perry Mason. And while I was doing this story, it really reminded me that was set in the 20s or 30s. And there's a girl like this it might be a Baptist church, but it's a huge congregation. They're giving all their money to it. She's bringing them in. She's talking in tongues. She's hallelujahing. She's the same thing. She thinks she talks to God. And it's, fiction. But the whole way I was writing and reading about this, that's the image I had in my mind, was of this real traveling spiritualism show. Anyway.
Right.
So anyway, she's out there traveling around and she meets a shoemaker named Jacob Morph.
Shoemaker.
I know. It was simpler times.
I know. I'm off the time. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Despite being married, Morph seemed mesmerised by Margaretta, and she quickly came to feel the same way about him. Now, there is absolutely no evidence that they got jiggy with it, but there are some letters exchanged between them that are preserved in an archive in Zurich, and they clearly had some form of connection. I read an article from someone who was suggesting that she probably was sleeping with him and even could have got pregnant to him. But again, no proof that that's actually true. In one of her letters...
Because she could have just got pregnant without sleeping with anyone, right?
Well, no, because she's a Lutheran and they actually don't believe in the Virgin Mary. So how's that for a contradiction for you?
Well, she's a splitter, though, from the Lutheran church, isn't she?
Do we call it splitter or do we call it dissenter? I'm not sure. I was looking that up. I went down a whole rabbit hole on religious schisms. Anyway, and still don't know the answer.
Python would call it splitter.
My brother would call it splitting. Splitting? Yes. My sister-in-law is a Protestant. We're all Catholics, and my brother-in-law is a Lutheran. So my brother likes his Church of England wife and call her a splitter. But anyway, yes.
Yeah, well, that's like
And
my
obviously
sister who barracks for Collingwood, and my brother and I barrack for Carlton, and so she's a splitter.
Mm,
It's very similar.
absolutely. You're quite right. Okay, so there's no proof that they actually had a child. There's no evidence. She did, however, say to him in one of her letters that they would ascend to heaven together and share one throne for all eternity. I'm hoping that she's talking about a very large love seat and not one toilet.
One big toilet.
Mm.
Yeah. Ugh, was that you?
Anyway, Morph's wife, Regula, was not on board with the relationship. Go figure.
Really?
Yeah. She was as regular as can be. Maybe it's Regula. I don't know. It's German. Not sure how to say it, or Swiss, actually. But for some time, her husband made her think it was totally kosher. It's nothing more than a big religious thing. In late 1822, police became alerted when Margaretta and Elizabeth vanished without a trace.
Ooh.
What?
People went around looking for them. I know, it was very strange.
Are they on
After
that big
months
throne?
of searching, don't know where they were. After months of searching, the two women turned up on their own on the 8th of January in 1823.
How long?
Go on.
Sorry, how long have they been missing?
It said late 1822. So
Okay.
it came in January. So let's say,
Oh,
I wanted to say 40 days
Month or
and
two.
40 nights. Thank
Let's
you,
go with that.
Carla. Thank you, Carla,
Yes.
for getting that. Paul, did you get that biblical reference? No.
Is there a movie or something? I've heard of 40 Days and 40 Nights. Oh, is that how long it rained for?
No, Jesus wandered in the desert for 40
Ah.
days and 40 nights.
How long did it rain for then?
Oh, long enough to flood the earth.
Was
And
that
to
40
be
days
honest,
and 40, yeah, was that 40 days?
Oh,
and
that was
40
40 days, 40 nights.
could have been. How long did Jesus go in the desert then? Have I got all my numbers wrong?
My first thought was the flood, to be honest. Only because
I'm
anyway, it's
such
very-
a bad Catholic. See, I'm
No, but I'm not.
I'm not a first-
I'm glad I'm here to
I'm
correct
not,
you on
I'm
your
not your
faith.
source. I'm not your source.
no. It was 40 days for Jesus. What
The wandering.
for?
Wandered.
Oh, sorry. No, the Israelites wandered for 40 years. I'm sure Jesus wandered in the desert.
Jesus. That's not
Why
a
was
fucking
he wandering
wander.
in the desert?
A wander can't go for 40
I'm
years.
sorry. I accidentally looked up who wandered the desert. The
Jesus.
desert. For how long?
Do you go to hell for not knowing that?
I think you better get back into reading the Bible,
Matthew
Schmidty.
4,
No,
1,
you're out of
11.
touch.
Matthew 4, 1, 11. Turns out I am not out of touch. At that time, Jesus was led by the Spirit
Hey!
into the desert to be tempted by the devil. He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights and afterwards was hungry. No surprise. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
My question is, how long did that flood last?
Oh, far out. We're
Yeah.
on First Testament again. How long
Are we?
was the flood?
How long was the
Noah. 40 days and 40 nights. Yep.
flood? There you go.
So there's obviously
This is all-
Deirdre
that's a lot of
Chambers.
shit.
What a coincidence.
I reckon they've got like two measures of time. One is the day, and one is more than a day, which is 40 days and 40 nights. That's like just
Straight
how we
to
say,
40.
fuck, that went on for a long time. Back then it was just 40 days and 40 nights.
And if we were doing an Indiana Jones thing here, we'd be saying, how many cubits is that? 1 cubit? Do you remember that? Anyway, I digress. I'm just thinking about First Testament, the Ark, Noah, all that shit. And I'm not a First Testament aficionado, I've got to tell you. Anyway, so Margaretta
Me
came
neither.
back.
Really? Because I've been saying that you are to all my friends. Like, oh, my friend, she's the first. And they're like so blown away. They're like, oh my God, can't wait
This
to
is
meet her. That
Schmidty.
sounds so cool.
Oh,
That sounds like fun. Oh, she loves the little cruiser and a little bit of the First Testament. Woo!
wait till you get her on Revelation. You can't get her off it.
Party.
That's right. And don't get me started on Exodus. Anyway. Right. So when she showed up, though, here's the important point. After however long she was away, which could have been 40 days, 40 nights, she was visibly pale and ill. And
She was Swiss. I don't think she would have been rocking a tan.
true. Anyway, she was
She
sick.
wasn't in the desert, was she?
She was sick. And she refused to say
Aw.
where they had been. And there's a little bit of this conjecture that suggests that maybe she'd had a child, but we don't know.
All right.
So, it could be
Too old mate.
two old mates. She could have had a baby,
Told mate.
lost the baby, given the baby
Yes.
away, whatever. We don't know. No idea. But the fact that she came back sick and she just disappeared like that is a little bit interesting. Not long afterward,
Yes.
Jacob Morph turned up at the Peter house following one of the letters from Margaretta. At this point, she starts to go really downhill mentally. And if we entertain the idea of there being a baby, that could have been, depression, could have been postnatal depression, could have been grief if she'd lost it. There's all sorts of things that could explain why she starts to go totally...
Schmidty, is she back at home at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the travelling show has happened. She's gone missing, and she's returned back to, what's the name of the town? Not Rudolph, think of the first place. Little town. Wilders. Yeah, she's back there.
Wilderson Book or something, yeah.
And Peter's turned up there at the house there.
Jacob has turned up there. Peter is Margaretta's last name.
Okay. Who's Morph?
Morph is Jacob. Jacob Morph is the shoemaker who may or may not have been diddling her. We don't know. All right. She's not very well. She and Elizabeth confine themselves to a single room in the house where they read the Bible and pray almost...
They must have COVID.
almost non-stop.
Sorry.
Yes, but without the praying and the reading the Bible. Yes.
Yeah.
She's at this point, she's obsessed with earning God's forgiveness for her life of sin. And again...
Total dirtbag.
Yes, we don't know. It might have been a baby. It could have just been felt guilty for having... adulterous sex, or could just be
there could have been some of those anti-abortion
sex.
protesters who were there if she had to have an abortion, and they made her feel bad because they did that shit too.
I am not sure what the Lutherans' position was on abortion in the 1800s, but I'm pretty sure.
Have to be Lutherans. It just could have been some of them.
I'm pretty sure everyone was pro-life in those days. Yes. I don't think there was any pro-abortion at that point in time.
So there would have been a whole lot of anti-abortion people. Making her feel like she's a sinner.
Everyone. Yes. Yep. Absolutely right.
Right. Fuckers.
Well, it was the time, unfortunately. Anyway, we don't know if she had a baby. This is just a theory. When she wasn't in her room. Yeah. When she wasn't in her room, she'd come downstairs, meet with her followers, and share her prophecies with them. Eventually, Jacob gives up, goes home to his wife and his job, and in his absence, Margaretta starts to gear up for Easter.
Oh.
What does that even mean?
You know what it means. She's starting to stock the hot cross buns as soon as the Christmas decks are down. She's like, they're in store already. That's what she's doing.
Clothing thing she was going to gear up for.
All right.
Getting the Easter gear out.
So Carla is absolutely right.
Her bonnet.
Her bonnet. Carla is absolutely right. And most of us would be buying hot cross buns. And if you're a traditionalist,
you get the bonnet ready.
Yeah, you might be. Remember when you used to dye the eggs and you'd blow the eggs?
I was like, she's putting small chickens around like a paper hat that someone's parents made for the Easter bonnet parade.
That's right. That's what she's doing.
Couple of Easter eggs and a couple of chicks. Yeah, she's busy.
That's what she should be doing. That's right.
Oh,
yeah.
Not getting on the gear before Easter.
No. She wasn't getting on the gear. But what she was doing was declaring, "Behold, I see the host of Satan drawing nearer and nearer to encompass me. He strives to overcome me. Let me alone that I may fight him."
Fuck, these people say some weird things.
All right. We hope you're enjoying the show. We are a completely independent podcast, and we want as many people to hear us as possible. We need your help. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Facebook at Trial by Wine, where we share our updates, and contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. We can't thank you enough for your support. Now, back to the show. All right, so I think at this point in time, and perhaps with the benefit of hindsight, we can reasonably say she's batshit crazy.
Can I just ask what the host of Satan is?
Yeah, the devil and all of his bad, demons and nasty fuckers.
Like, is it a collective noun for Satan and all his friends?
Yeah.
He doesn't work solo, or is that like...
Well, Satan on his own can't do... Well, he can do a bit, but traditionally, Satan usually pits himself against the host of angels. He doesn't normally come down and rain his magnificence, his evil magnificence on a household of weirdos in Switzerland. But she thinks that's what's going to happen. She believes that he's coming to lay claim to all the souls of humanity, but fortunately, she's well positioned to stand in his way. So she is the...
She said she's the woman for the job.
She's the host of angels that will...
It's a big job.
Will smote them.
Yeah. Yeah, she's going to stop
I'm going to
Satan in
smoke
his
those
tracks,
fuckers,
basically.
those half cattle, half people.
Well, this is you're going to enjoy, I hope, how she does it. So what do you think she did next?
She made a
She
sacrifice.
gets her smoking gear on.
She's got her Easter gear on. Yeah.
She's got a hot cross buns.
Did she sacrifice someone?
No,
Oh.
no. Well, yes, but no.
Spring lamb. That's always big at Easter. Did she get herself a leg of lamb?
If only she just got a leg of lamb. She ordered that the house be closed up completely and no worldly people be allowed to enter. And given that all humans are worldly people, that's pretty much
I was going to say, I
everyone.
thought she'd quite job. Doesn't sound like they're particularly worldly at all. It's like freaking nutters. So, yeah, that was easy to shut up shop.
Yep. And that included the local pastor who was really concerned as to where she was headed at this point.
Where you going with this? Where you going with this, Marguerite? Or Margarita?
I'm not sure this is Margaretta. I don't think this is a good idea. So anyway, her family and the servants, entirely believing that she had a direct line to God, boarded the house up. Now, if you think about the mood in the household at this point, they're waiting for Satan and his host to come along and get
Waiting
them.
for Satan. That should be a song.
They're waiting for Satan. That's it. And they're totally isolated from outside influence. And I can frankly only assume they're batshit scared, right? They are shit scared. I would be. If I thought Satan and all the demons and all the hordes of hell were coming for me, I'd be scared. So it's not surprising that Margaret Jugley, the servant with epilepsy...
Oh, hang on. I'm going to
had
have
a
to do it now.
convulsive fit.
Sorry, I know I keep doing this, but there is actually a song called Waiting for Satan.
Go
It's
for
by
it.
someone called Zanitra. Do you reckon it's going to be heavy metal
I
or
hope it's
death
as good as
metal
the
or
lead-up.
something? Or is it going to be like
Or
Xanadu?
Christian rock.
Yeah,
It's going to
Christian
go one
rock.
way or
Bit
the
of
other.
Amy.
Might be Christian rock.
What's her name? Amy Stewart?
Yeah, I know
There
who.
you
No,
go.
I know who you're talking about though.
It's a bit of electronica or something.
Oh God, I wasn't expecting that.
So maybe this is trying to capture the mood in the Peter house.
Well, yeah, it's very tense.
Yes, it is. A little bit of electronic for the time, but yes.
I'm going to fast forward it a
menacing.
bit, see if anything happens.
That's some teenager just having a shot like a school project and gone, we've got to
This
use
is
this instrument or whatever.
shit.
What am I going to call it?
Yeah. Waiting for Satan.
It's not what I was expecting. I'll be honest. I was having a bit of Christian rock.
It's disappointing.
Yeah, well, at this point, I wish Satan would show up
Yeah.
because that's boring as shit. Come on, Satan, get on with it. Anyway, so it's not surprising that poor old Margaret, the servant with epilepsy, had a convulsive fit after hearing a pop from the fireplace. A long pop. And
Just shat
she
herself.
got epilepsy. Shits herself, yeah. Screaming that the devil...
That is brilliant. I can just imagine how nervous she was.
Isn't
I
there
know,
like a
exactly.
comedian in one of those shows where they overreact to everything? What's that?
Yeah, Catherine
It is
Tate.
Catherine Tate. Yeah, it's that.
The woman who screams at any loud noise. Exactly. So screaming that the devil had come for her, she pleaded with Marguerite and the others to pray for her and save her soul.
No, darling. It was just a pop in the fire. Don't panic.
Oh, if only.
Oh, for God's sake, chill out.
Yeah, that's right.
No. By comparison, she doesn't take a level-headed view.
Oh.
She screams out, "Depart, thy murderer of souls, accursed one, to hell fire. Wilt thou try to rob me of my sheep that was lost? My sheep whom I have pledged myself to save?" This woman is so
And
dramatic.
they all
Where'd we
fucking
get that
fell
quote?
for
Anyway.
it. Surely someone else is sitting there going, it was just the fire, mate. Like, calm down.
Yeah, like, just chillax. That's right. Well, to your point, to your question, Carla, there were plenty of witnesses to all of this behaviour.
Okay.
And there was a court case afterwards where they then talked
Okay,
about
so
what
somebody survived. That's all I need to know, right?
happened. Quite a few people
Okay.
survived. So, though Margaret soon recovered, she continued to have seizures, and the rest of the household began having religious visions themselves.
What's been thrown on the fire?
Remember? Yeah,
Big
exactly.
bag of dope or something.
Those funny weeds.
Pop.
Yeah, those funny weeds that were growing out the
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
We just chuck them on and everyone's
Quick,
having
before
visions.
we board the house up, let's get that stash. We're geared up for Easter.
Margaretta then wrote to Jacob, her friend, to come to her aid. And on March the 8th in 1823, he finally arrived at Wildersbach with 2 other believers.
Which type of believers?
With all the players now in place.
Are they believers of Marguerite's clan? Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
I get my.
With all the players now in...
How many people are we talking about? Like literally a handful. Tops.
All right, so
her household's what? Dad?
Her sister, her dad, her brother and other sisters have moved out because they're all married. So it's her sister, her dad, the 3 servants, the on-again, off-again boyfriend, allegedly.
Shoemaker.
And 2 others. So there's 9 people, I think,
and
now in the
so
house.
that's...
Oh, and her,
So that kind of means
10 people,
6 people need 3 servants. Lazy fuckers.
Maybe, yes. With all the players now in one place, the passion play could begin.
The passion play?
I know, that was an Easter reference for you. I thought you'd enjoy it. Yeah. The Passion of Christ is the crucifixion of Christ.
Oh, right.
I'm doing my best to bring all my religious...
I thought there was going to be some horrible
in.
Sexual thing going on now that the place has brought it up.
That's right, that going.
Oh, excuse me, if you don't mind. How sinful.
Your religious humour's lost on me.
I know. I knew it would be. I was hoping Carla would back me up a little, but anyway. I'm just feeling all these donuts just dropping out there. Anyway, so based on the testimony of her family members and followers who were secluded with her in the Peter house in that week in 1823, being March, so it's around the Easter period, Margaretta's enthusiastic prayers and fasting convinced her believers that something amazing was about to happen. Oh my God, something amazing is about to happen. They were right. Even if 1 or 2 of them were less than convinced about her holy mission, they didn't seem inclined to argue with the others, which, remember, is not unusual behaviour when all parties are part of one delusion.
One direction.
So, remember our Erickson twins?
Yes.
And that was Folia Dirt?
Folia Dis.
I was going to call it Folia Shitload because there are a shitload of people who are currently in this delusion. So eventually Margaretta gathered her disciples around her and reportedly said, "Lo, I see Satan and his firstborn floating in the air. They are dispersing their emissaries to all corners of the earth to summon their armies together." Now, her pretty gullible sister Elizabeth promptly announced that she saw them as well. She then began to prophesy that the son of Napoleon, the Duke of Rackstad, would soon announce himself as the Antichrist and that the final battle would then begin.
So the Duke was apparently the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Hell. Someone,
crazy town we're in. We're back in
be
Trial by
there to
One,
call-
crazy
exactly
town. Yeah.
Right.
Call bullshit on all of this.
Oh.
That's right.
Wake up to yourself,
So
Terry.
up at this moment, that's right. We've got wailing, prophesizing, the odd epileptic convulsion, visions from God calling Armageddon is upon us. So, nothing too untoward. And for some, a good retreat, right?
Sure.
A bit of downtime.
Therapy.
Everyone locked down every now. We all locked down for a week's good.
It's good therapy. That's right. I'm having a breakthrough moment. Well, after making this prophecy, Margaretta went into a wild frenzy and began smashing furniture and attacking the walls with a hammer.
Oh.
Brilliant.
Margaretta, poor old Margaret.
I think she had to lift it up a level, to be fair. Let's we're going to do it. Let's go. Yeah, let's bring it. Let's bring some energy to this, shall we? Woo,
I reckon that's like
theatre.
a challenge to her sister who said, "Yeah, I saw that too." Well, can you do this?
Yeah.
Smash. That's right. So then Margaret, the one with epilepsy, has a fit.
Of
goes
course
into
she
convulsions.
does.
Poor Margaret.
Well, who wouldn't, frankly?
Margaret. Poor Margaret.
And Margaretta took that as a divine sign. She cried out, "I see in spirit the old Napoleon gathering a mighty host and marching against me. The contest will be terrible. You must wrestle unto blood. Unto blood. Go, fly, fetch me axes, clubs, whatever you can find. Bar the doors, curtain all the windows in the house, and close every shutter.
And let's kill everyone."
Curtains will really help.
And did her little sister then say, "Hold my beer"? Because she's going to go and accept the challenge.
She sure did. She sure accepted the challenge. She absolutely did. So Margaretta's followers followed her instructions, and gathered in her bedroom with all the tools they could find in the house. Some of them would report afterwards to seeing divine visions themselves due to their leader's fanaticism. So that shared delusion. She told everyone to start smashing everything in the room until she told them to stop, which I'm not sure she did. But anyway, which they probably did for the next 3 hours straight.
Ugh.
If any one of them slowed down due to fatigue, Margaretta told that person to strike him, cut him down, the old adversary, the arch fiend. Whoso loseth his life shall find it. Fear nothing. Smite till your blood runs down as sweat.
Hang on a minute. So if someone slowed, because I'm kind of thinking like, Richard Simmons workout, where if someone starts falling behind, they'd get a bit of encouragement or something rather than that.
Yep.
She's saying if they slow down, just kill them. Is that right?
No, I'm not sure at this point that's what she's saying. I think she is doing the Richard Simmons. She's jazzing him up. She's like, don't worry about it. Fear nothing. Keep going until your blood runs down as sweat. Keep sweating it out, people. Come on.
Yeah, right.
You can go a bit further. We can smash more of the house.
Yes.
Keep smashing.
Yeah, so she's being motivating, not saying, fuck them. They're evil. Kill them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. At this point, she is.
Phew,
so anyway, that escalated quickly.
Mm.
And I'm not sure whether you pictured Armageddon to consist of a bunch of people smashing a bedroom up, because I don't.
It's not the traditional view.
No, as I said before, I'm not a big First Testament subscriber, but I'm pretty sure that's not what the author had in mind either when they talked about the end of days.
The best thing is that it's contained to their house. It's awesome. It's like, you want to be fuckwits? Do it at the house.
Yeah, that is good.
No one cares. Just leave them in there until they sort this out themselves.
Yeah.
At least
Can
it's
I come out yet? No.
Keep going. Oh, no, I think there's still spirits in there by the looks of things.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's still a floorboard. Yeah. There might be a bit of chair left. Smash it.
We should make Margaretta Land.
Yes, please go ahead. No,
I was just trying to check, actually. So I think Napoleon was alive and in power during this time. Is that right? And she's saying that he thinks, so she's obviously aware of him and that he's going to mount an army to help against the Satan's host, right? Have I understood that correctly?
So this is actually 1823.
Oh, hang on.
And Napoleon Bonaparte's dead.
Yeah, that's right. He died at 821.
He's dead at this point.
But he would have been.
So does she mean
he died
he's going to come back
military
from
hero.
the dead and do it?
Ah, yes, he does.
Yeah. Well, yes. She clearly thinks that Napoleon is the Antichrist, or Okay, so from the historical context, Napoleon rose during the French Revolution. There was a huge amount of European disruption at the time. There were the Napoleonic Wars. People in Switzerland would have been affected by that. So she obviously sees Napoleon as a representation of the devil.
Or France, apparently. She's probably in like Germanic part of Switzerland, probably.
Yeah, she was. She was, yeah. And when you think about maybe how we would see Hitler,
oh God,
it's probably a similar way of thinking about this individual as representative of a huge evil. Yeah, that's the way I'm reading it anyway. Yeah, but I did think it was interesting that she brought Napoleon into it.
Yeah, random.
Yeah. He's an archfiend though. Anyway, outside the house, as you could imagine, in this quiet little peasant world.
Oh, is there?
The neighbours come out. They're like, what's
Should
going
we
on
ignore
here?
that? Bit of domestic. Should we just ignore
we all
that?
Knew this was coming.
Should we call the cop shop? Yeah.
Get your phone.
That's right, Carla. That's right.
Yeah.
Film it. Yeah. Record it.
So at some point, the smashing up of the house is so vehement that someone actually knocks a piece of the wall out. So everyone outside can now see what's going on.
Oh my God.
Inside.
Embarrassing.
Now the evil can get in.
When I said the whole street will be able to hear us, then we're all yelling at each other here and going nuts. It's like, be quiet. It's like if the whole wall fell out, I'd be really pissed. Now they can see us yelling at each other as well.
Yeah, so I wrote something along the lines of the whole crowd could see Margaretta and her devotees going at it hammer and tong. Literally.
Going at it hammer
and axe.
Hammer and axe. They were smashing the place up. It was not
going
an
at
euphemism.
it.
Not
just smashing.
That's right. Going at the house. Yeah.
Yes.
But when she saw the crowd, Margaretta denounced them as enemies of God.
Oh.
Of course they are, because they were the worldly, terrible people out there. Anyway, once they completely fucked that room, Margaretta, and this is We could bring this in to Trial by Wine as a kind of reality TV show about house renovation, perhaps. Maybe think
The
about
block.
that. Yeah, this is the block gone wrong.
You get a perfectly good
Okay,
house
so-
and it's your job to demolish it.
Smash
No,
it.
what was
That's
that
right.
show in the UK that was terrible and they'd renovate someone, just a room. It was oh God, but there was a show and they'd go in, they'd make over a bedroom, like just a room. And they'd be so badly done and people would walk in and sometimes people would cry. I don't know what that was called.
Yeah, I
Makeover
know what
house,
you're talking
makeover-
about.
oh.
It was
Did
like
they
not
renovate
house swap,
a
but
room
it was...
of each other's house? Like two different
Yes, it
households?
was. Yes.
House swap.
Yeah. It was like house swap or something like.
It
Not
was
house
like the
swap.
original sort of like renovation program, but they would only do one room, and it would be always thematic. It was so badly done, and people would either love it or really hate it. But they were generally
Which is
all
like a
members.
medieval bedroom in your
Yeah,
three-bedroom
yes.
house.
Yes, exactly.
No,
Would you like a
thanks.
sunflower theme, so the whole bedroom's bright yellow, and there's a sunflower duvet cover or something? Oh, that's beautiful. Anyway, I digress. Sorry, darling.
No, it's all right. I was trying to find one of her quotes that I thought might reflect how someone felt when they went into their room and it had been renovated in the worst possible way. Lo, I see Satan and his firstborn floating in the air. Anyway. Okay, so outside the house, they can see in now. When she saw them, she said they're enemies of God. Once the room was completely destroyed, Margaretta led her exhausted followers, poor buggers, downstairs to recover in the relatively intact sitting room. Oh, thank goodness. Now, it would be nice to be able to say that the miasma of madness was lifted at this point and they all had a nice cup of tea and calmed down. But unfortunately, that's not to be.
A nice big
For
cup
whatever
of shut
reason-
the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up, calm down.
I like my
Everyone took a little Valium and settled down. However, for whatever reason, Margaretta told them to beat themselves. So they did.
What?
Oh.
Except for our friend, the sister, Elizabeth, who said, "Hold my beer," earlier. For no apparent reason, said to her crazy sister Margaretta, "Actually, can you beat me, please?" And so Margaretta said, "Sure," and beat her.
What?
So at this point, I kept picturing the whole thing like the most bizarre whack-a-mole.
Yes,
For
exactly.
It's just
100%.
insane. Yeah, and maybe did Margarita, because when anyone showed signs of tiring from beating themselves, she ordered them to hit themselves harder.
Get back
Again
on,
with the motivational
on the tools,
speech. That's
on
right.
the tools.
Come on, guys. You can
Come
do better.
on.
God.
While everybody else is out there bloody around your hair, working on your body. Oh, God. Summer bodies
No
are
Finally,
ready,
pain, no
winter.
gain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
On the
absolutely.
tools.
Boy, her father John gets really jack of it, and
John sounds
as
a
a
bit
reward-
random. Like, John sounds like he should have a more Swiss sounding name.
Yes.
John sounds like a plant, like he's just been put there. John.
maybe it's
Johann.
Jan or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
Johann.
undercover.
John.
Anyway,
John Peters.
he's like, "I'm a bit over this," and she says, "No worries, Dad. So I'll help you out." So she starts to beat him around the head for
She's
him.
good like that.
Far out.
She's good. She's taking one for the team.
Quality.
So, as you said earlier, eventually the crowd called the police because they're like, "Oh, this is some of these kids are not
Yeah.
like
Not
the other
like the
ones."
other
Yeah.
when you say call the police, did they just live stream it on Facebook and someone found out?
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
exactly how it happened in 1822 or whenever this was,
Yeah,
1823.
makes sense.
I'm pretty sure they said some poor young child, "Go, call
Yes.
the police."
Run for the hills.
The police show up and they break into the house because, of course, it's all
Could
boarded
gone to
up.
the hole in the wall.
Yeah, that's right.
No, that's upstairs. I
Oh,
think that's
right, okay.
upstairs. So it's like an
Right.
attic room that they smashed up. Margaretta went into hysterics at seeing the police invading her sacred space. And after a considerable amount of wrangling, everyone was detained in separate rooms of the house. So what they did was they put all the men in one room and they put all the women in one room, which proved to be a bit of a mistake because Margaretta and Elizabeth were still with the other women. So instead of taking the two instigators of complete nutcases away, they allowed them to still be an influence on at least half of the group.
Right.
So the men settled down a bit, but the women were like still in another room festering with Elizabeth
I
and
bet the men
Margaretta.
did. I bet the men went, thank fuck, what was that?
What was
Yeah.
that?
Exactly.
Oh, my
right.
God.
That's right. I know. What?
Were you...
Hammer and tongs?
Oh.
So the local police go off, and I think they've calmed it all down. They go off and they set about putting an order together to get Elizabeth and Margaretta sent to an asylum. Unfortunately, that didn't happen quickly enough. So some of the followers had been sent home. Just get out of here, right? And gone, oh, that was weird.
It's been a big day for everybody, I think. Maybe just go and sleep it off.
Yeah. Go and have a nap.
Most were still present, though, when Margaretta assembled the remaining family members in the upper room of the house. The tools they used to destroy the room were still lying there, and Margaretta began preaching the need for a final battle to defeat the Antichrist.
Come on, one more shot. We've got it in us. We can do it. Just to finish it off.
This sounds like she's taking the piss. We're not done yet. There's one more battle.
But I'm tired,
There's people still
Margarita.
living.
No, we're nearly there, darling. Honestly,
Come
one
on,
more.
push through.
Yeah, one
Push
more.
through.
One more battle. Just one more battle.
Yeah, one more.
Oh,
Yeah.
it'll be worthwhile.
And then
You
we'll
want my
defeat
words.
Napoleon.
When her poor old brother Caspar came to the house at the request of the police,
Casper the friendly ghost.
the oldest brother,
No
so
one
he
saw
shows
him.
up because the police have said, dude, your sister's
Sister's batshit
gone
crazy.
right off. Your other sister's not much better. Your father's embroiled. Could you pop round and have a word, right? And he goes round and he's like, hey, Margaretta. So she attacks him with one of her tools. I don't know, it was an axe or a hammer.
Hammer or tongs, yeah.
Her father at this point says, oh, this really is not okay. So he stops her and he carries poor Caspar down the stairs and therefore wasn't present to see the coup de grace about to unfold.
What is a coup de grace?
No.
I'm glad you
Asked.
asked that question. So
The
I
final
looked up
bit?
the definition. Yeah, in modern parlance, we would say it as the final bit.
Grand
but the
finale?
definition,
Coup.
a final blow or shot given to kill a wounded person or animal,
Oh.
or an action or event that serves as the culmination of a bad or deteriorating situation. Both, I think, could be applied to what I'm talking about. So I
Right.
felt like it was a extremely appropriate thing to put in
A
there.
death blow, it says here.
Also
I looked up because I was getting the spelling.
Also
That
known
makes
as
sense.
the final battle.
Yeah, that's right. Armageddon.
Coup de grace.
Armageddon out of here is what Casper and the dad said. Anyway, upstairs, Margaretta asked the ones who were still remaining if they were willing to die for salvation. And of course, our mate Lizzie says, oh yeah, me, please me.
Yeah, yeah.
Margaret.
Hold my beer.
Margaret has another fit.
Hold my beer. Oh, I'm not sure what.
I'll
No,
jump out
Margaret
the
doesn't
window
have a fit.
myself.
Yeah. No. So she starts beating herself with a hammer. But
Oh.
Margaretta was not satisfied with that, so she smacked her in the head with a hammer,
Oh.
causing her to fall to the ground,
Faster.
causing her to fall to the ground and have convulsions. And instead of being kind of shocked and appalled, the others got totally into whack-a-mole and beat Elizabeth to death.
Oh, God.
That's nice.
Groceries.
Now, you may think that might be a kind of a wake-up moment. That might be a,
Yeah,
oh,
possibly.
literally
Maybe
a
across the line.
come to Jesus moment of what have we done? Oh, no. Afterward, Margaretta told the others
Next.
more blood must flow.
Yeah.
Yep. And here we go, guys. You ready for it?
Yeah.
I have pledged myself for the saving of many souls. I must die now. You must crucify me.
That's going to take a little bit of time and effort, to be honest, Margaret. We've got to get some things assembled. We've got to get you up there.
Yeah.
You know, this is not just a...
Sharp
We're going to
nails.
have to unboard the house
Yes.
to make a crucifix.
Well, we're going to
and
need,
boards.
yeah.
It's not a...
Oh, don't worry. They were pretty good. Even after killing Elizabeth, her followers had a moment of, excuse me? Did you say crucify?
I beg pardon?
Who the fuck do you think you are?
Could you repeat that? Even so they weren't quite all up for it. She said, no, honestly, she insisted, it's better that I should die than that thousands of souls should perish. And then she hit herself in a hammer.
Couldn't we just use the hammer? Couldn't we just do that? Do we really have to go to all the effort of the crucifix?
Did she really hit herself?
Well, remember, then she hits herself in the head with a hammer. That's right. The thing is, remember, it's Easter, and she was
Oh,
born
yes.
on Christmas Day. This girl has convinced herself, I think, that she's Christ
Right.
again, right? And that's why it's Armageddon. It's the
right.
end of the day. She thinks she's the resurrection of Christ.
Oh.
She doesn't quite ever say it, but I'm going to suggest that
Um,
there's a bit of that happening here.
Fucking likely. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why Easter was significant. That's why her birth date was significant. So she's convinced at this point that she has to be crucified, and so she orders the others to gather wood and nails, which, wasn't that easy since they'd smashed everything
I was
up.
going to say, gather.
Our mate Heinrich, who was the really, really loyal servant, says, "Peace out, I'm gone," and leaves. No, he's out of there.
You're all
So
fucking
he's
whack jobs.
Only sensible person in the room that says, "No, I'm noping out of here. I'm out. Done."
So
Fair
he had
enough.
the come to Christ moment where he's like, nah, fucking crazy town.
He did. He was like,
Yeah.
step too far, I think. Yeah.
They wouldn't kill
However,
Elizabeth.
the others, no problem. So they proceed to nail Margaretta's hands and feet to blocks of wood, and then they mounted her on a wall.
Brilliant. Above the fireplace?
Oh, I'm not sure exactly which wall and what facing it was, whether it was north facing, south facing, don't know.
Just feels like she should be in some imposing place where she can look over the gathering.
Well, as it turns out, because she was a bit maniacal at this point, allegedly she asked them to drive nails into her breasts as well. So she was going, hell for leather on the whole thing. Even while she was being crucified, she said, "Don't worry about it, because Elizabeth and I will rise from the dead 3 days hence." I'm telling you, she thought she was the resurrection of Christ.
Right.
Don't worry, it's going to be fine. So she's going through all this terrible stuff. And then, as we do know from from lots of historical context, crucifixion is a very slow and painful death, and really actually asphyxiates you over time. So the body sort of collapses and the lungs can't cope with it and you asphyxiate. But ain't nobody got time for that. And least of all Margaretta, who eventually, giving into the pain of it, said, "Oh, could you just stab me in the heart, please? Just get this over with." They didn't have a knife handy, unfortunately, so someone decided to smash her head in with a hammer and a crowbar. Simples.
Oh my God.
Genius.
Mm-hmm. What do you think that you would do after beating a woman to death and crucifying another? What would your next action be?
I would go and get my nails done. I would have a shopping spree and I'd buy a new car or something.
Diana! Yeah. Actually, now that you put it that way, it's actually not that surprising. Yes, they didn't do those things, but they went downstairs to have a drink and have some dinner.
What?
Yeah, don't worry, mate, because guess what? I'm going to cook you a really nice meal.
They weren't cannibals. There was no eating of these girls. They just went downstairs for a rest. It had been a big day. They were
They're
hungry.
pretty
Big day.
exhausted after the Richard Simmons workout.
Absolutely knackered. They needed some calories. That's right.
Oh, you can just
Richard
imagine
Simmons
looking around
axe
each
to
other.
the grind
I'm glad that's
workout.
over. I'm starving.
They need some carb loading.
Yeah.
They were hungry. That's right.
I'd plum tuck it out.
So a local policeman then arrived that required John Peter to sign a writ guaranteeing they'd all front up to the magistrate.
Oh,
And no one mentioned the fact there were 2 dead people upstairs. So
Yeah.
he served the writ and left, having discharged his duty. There was no evidence or no suggestion that we got an issue upstairs, mate.
So old mate John
So-
just signs it. Yeah, they'll be there. Because they'll be back in
worries.
3
Well-
days.
Correct.
right.
3 days pass, and the group were a touch disappointed that neither sisters had risen from the dead. Ursula and Heinrich removed the nails from Margaretta's body because they thought maybe that was the problem.
Yeah.
They were earthing her, maybe.
Yeah.
So we'll take those out
Yeah.
and maybe she'll return. But no such luck. So the group sat around in the room and prayed over the 2 decomposing bodies at this point in time for 2 more days. And I can't even imagine what the smell would have been like. And then eventually John, the father, took a trip into town to talk to the local pastor and let him know that both girls were dead. And all I can say is of that group of people who were, honestly expecting those girls to be raised from the dead, boy, did they have egg on their faces.
Embarrassing. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, how embarrassing. Oh, my God. Oh, we got so tricked.
I've never been wrong before.
I just didn't
My
see it
bad.
coming. I was sure that she was the Messiah. Okay. After a 2-day trial that began on December the 3rd, 1823, pretty much most of the people who'd been present at Margaretta and Elizabeth's deaths received prison sentences. Ursula Kundig received the longest sentence, which was 16 years, while the others received sentences ranging from 8 years to only a few months. John Peter, father to both dead women, was sentenced to 8 years in prison. And perhaps a way of keeping the Peter house from becoming a pilgrimage site, the judge also ordered it to be levelled to the ground and that no house would ever be built on the site again. While
Smart.
some pietists did manage to visit, the house before its destruction, the story of Margaretta's crucifixion quickly faded into local legend.
Wow, nice.
Mm.
Can I ask what they were charged with? Do you know?
No, it didn't say.
Yeah, right.
Didn't say. I suppose. So I was going to make a comment about that, which was I'm going to suggest that the legal system at the time recognised that this was a moment of mass hysteria. Again, there's a big religious context around it, that everyone is some form of Christian. So maybe they were like, well, we can kind of see how that happened, but you shouldn't have gone so far as to beat
We did that on
anyone
a
to death
smaller
or
scale
crucify anyone.
Sunday lunch the other day.
It happens. It happens to the best of us at times. You've just let it get away from you.
Yeah.
You've just let it get away from you.
And the other thing is that they consented. They asked to be crucified. They asked to be beaten to death. So I suppose it threw up some interesting legal issues. Unfortunately, what I was reading didn't get into it. There is a book, but it's written in German, and the only copies you can get are in German.
And what's your
I'm
point,
not gonna-
Schmidty?
Yeah, I didn't
Well,
read it. That's
well,
my
there's
point.
there's
commitment.
talking about embarrassing.
I know. I went so far as to translate the meaning of it, which was something about the crucifixion or the passion play of Wildesberg.
Oh.
That's as far as I got. All right, so like the crash test dummies of a previous episode, the power of persuasion, the power of suggestion, the power of delusion, a shared delusion. If someone thinks they're seeing something and I think I'm seeing it, it can kind of happen. It's interesting, isn't it? I guess the question comes out of it, which are, what are your thoughts? I've got some views on where the crimes are here, but what do you think about the crimes, the perpetrators, and your sentences for them? Because it's interesting. There are a lot of people at play in this.
I struggle to know where the crimes are in a lot of ways, other than Lizzie and Margaretta, who,
Well, technically, they murdered people. They technically murdered
kind
people.
of, yeah, but, in that whole
You asked for it.
self-induced hysteria. Well, kind of. There's a little
You
bit of
asked
that.
for it, exactly.
Yeah, but it was still illegal. It was illegal to crucify someone. It's illegal to beat someone in the head, even if they asked for it.
Oh, that's good to know.
If that's like, I'm pretty comfortable that that's where they ended up. So, as far as a sentence for those two, I reckon they were pretty well sentenced, to be honest.
Yeah, I had the same thought, yeah. They'd done themselves proud.
I was wondering what Ursula did that was bad enough for her to get 16 years or whatever.
She was the most fervent. So I think she probably did more of the smacking.
She wielded the hammer, not the tongs.
She
was head smacker.
She may have been. That's right. She may have been head smacker.
Yeah. If you don't run faster, I'm going to smack your head.
She may have dealt the
With this
death
hammer.
blow. I don't know.
It just seems like a scene of insanity that they were inside this house just chopping it up, and then everyone else. I get the impression
Bonkers.
that I dare say there probably wasn't a policeman in the village if it was that small. They probably had to travel some distance to get somebody. Over the time this all happened, I can imagine it's sort of madness. Then everyone's sort of rocking up. Oh, there's been some problem here, has there, mate? Yeah, we just got a little bit carried away earlier. Oh, okay then. Well, you better
see
front
here.
up to court in a couple of weeks.
No
All
worries,
right then.
no
We let it get out of hand. No worries.
We're just having a spot of dinner. Sorry about that. Yeah, we
we're
got
just
a bit
been hungry now.
overexcited.
It takes it out of you. I tell you, this silly behaviour. But yeah, no worries. We'll be there at court. Everyone's all pretty cool. Meanwhile, in that house, it's just chopped up. People have been crucified and
shitstorm.
beaten to death. You don't want to look upstairs. No. Oh, all right then.
No.
All right. Enough said.
wondered whether they were-
I'll be on my way and let you get back to it. I can tell you look a little bit like you've had a big day. Yep.
You look a bit tired. I wondered whether, because John signed that writ to say that they'd all turn up, I wondered whether they were going to drag the crucifix into court. I'm here.
John has a lot to answer
because he
for.
could
He
have
was
got 8
the
years
dad. He
for
should have sorted
signing.
himself out.
Yeah, John does have a lot to answer for, but he also lost his 2 daughters.
What did he do
Copped
wrong?
Yeah.
him beating himself.
What
He
did
didn't
do
stop
wrong?
them.
He didn't sort of
He went
go
along with it.
okay, girls, enough.
Yeah, but I don't know that just because he was part of putting them on the earth,
Oh, no. I don't mean he's at fault for being their father. I mean he's at fault for going along with the whole... Even in court, I think that quote I said earlier where he thought she was put on earth for some extraordinary purpose.
Yes.
He honestly believed it. He he
I
was
kind of get that, but at what
a
point we go,
disciple of
okay,
his own daughter.
I don't really want you killing each other, girls. I know. It's not that I don't think you're like,
Yeah, but he missed that.
oh,
But he
went
I was having dinner.
downstairs.
He was having dinner, wasn't he?
No, he left with Casper. Casper had smacked over the head. And he took Casper out, and he missed. That's why I said he missed the coup de grace, the killing blow
Right, yeah, that's right.
of the crucifixion and the death of Elizabeth. Right. It's possible if he'd stayed in the room, he might have tried to intervene or even get killed himself.
Probably
but
the latter.
And maybe that's why he only got 8 years, because he actually wasn't. He wasn't actually there when the two girls were killed. Yeah, but arguably, it's a different social lens and a different context, but there was a lot of what I would see as extreme negligence going on with these girls. They go off, they wander off and, on their own at 20, 21. They come back, they're fasting, they're starving, and it's like, it just doesn't.
I'm giving them
but
nothing.
they're religious. They're just
right.
religious zealots, that's all. And that's
They're
why,
just
so
weird.
anything goes when you think that there's that's what's behind it, then, that's when they just go, okay, well, I believed it, so it didn't really have to make sense.
I just don't know how people get other people.
True. Go on, Clarky. Yeah.
I don't know how people get people to follow them when they do that. Like, other times there's drugs or whatever involved. This is just
no magic pussy,
normal
nothing.
people. That's exactly like nothing. What's the
the
payoff? She have going for her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think some people maybe did think that she was Christ reborn. They didn't say it, but what's in it for them?
The
Salvation.
magic pussy thing.
I think it was a shitty time to be around.
Right.
You've had these wars. You've had, it was a shit time, frankly. Like, you've come out the Revolution, the French Revolution, that is. There's been disruption across aristocracies, across countries. There's been the Napoleonic Wars, there's dysentery, there's, it wasn't a pleasant time to live. And the average age expectation was probably, 40 or 50 or something. You did well. Like, if you think about Jane Austen stuff, you did well if you lived up to your 60s. So therefore, the afterlife was more prevalent and relevant to say, I'm going to leave this awful place and go to somewhere amazing. And so if my vehicle to do that and get my salvation is this woman who may or may not be
Schmidty, I don't think I've got a handle on the scale of her audience, because at the end of days it was really just her family and the servants who were involved,
who showed up.
So when she was the traveling show lady, was her following ever more than more than
it sounded
pack out the MCG?
From what I read I don't know about the MCG, but she certainly
maybe
had
RAC Arena in Perth,
she certainly had a decent following.
She probably wouldn't want to come here though, that's the only thing. Well, she couldn't get in currently, but bummer.
I think she had a decent following, but I think part of the reason that it was all very quiet at the end was, remember,
she just come back
40 days, 40 nights, 40 years, whatever, however much time it was biblically
she'd been missing,
that she was away and had been missing. She'd just come back from that.
Oh, did we ever get any more information about whether or not she'd ever been pregnant? I suppose
no, there's no record of it. That's what I was saying. That's a theory. I'm going to go so far as to say that there was a theory that she was pregnant and had a child. She and her sister came back under a bit of a dark cloud, and she went totally and utterly nuts after that.
Yeah.
I feel like all of the answers are in that German book.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
There's only one way to find out. We've all got to learn German.
That's right. And ain't nobody got time for that. Anyway. All right. So what about the people who were present, who went along with the smash and carry on?
What's it called? A smash and grab or something, isn't it, when you go nuts?
I was thinking smash and grab, and then I stopped myself because I don't know if there's grabbing.
I think that's like a crime.
Smash and
smash and grab. Like when you break in somewhere, it is into a jewel. That is a smash and grab, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is more like a smash and
smash.
Smash and bash.
With a little bit of nailing.
Smash and skull crush.
It's terrible. It is terrible, but
I'm not happy with the 8 weeks.
Yeah,
you said someone got 8 weeks. Like, what?
Yeah, I'm not sure who it was. It could have been like one of those people who came across, one of
it was the person who filmed it.
Instead of
it was the live streamer.
It was the servant who bought all the hammers and tongs. I didn't actually
even
hit
been
anyone.
Heinrich.
I just bought the stuff because they told me to.
It could have even been Heinrich because he's the one who pieced out. So he
Oh.
wasn't,
Yeah.
again, he technically wasn't there in the killings. So it could have even been him. But I didn't get a definitive list of who got what. So I can't answer that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm happy if they just level the house with them all in it.
Okay.
I don't know what there is to make me go, oh yeah, but that happened, and so we should feel compassion for them, or we should feel empathy for them, because it all just sounds like a shit show that they all were happy to be a part of.
Totally. It's kind of like in the end they sorted themselves out. We don't even have to worry. It's like, oh, so I'll tell you what, crucify me. All right then, well, okay. If you insist.
Yeah.
They were a little bit like, crucified. And yep. If you don't do
I'm up for it.
Satan's going to take over
I'm
the
up
world.
for it.
Well, if you put it like that, I suppose I better. Where's me hammer and nails? So yes, I think I get your point. I think what we have to remember is that these people went on to live with all of that. So,
As they should.
and they went on to, if you imagine they're in a delusion and they really believe that they're going to rise from the dead, and then it doesn't happen, they're now disillusioned by that.
Yeah.
And then they have to recognize that they've literally just killed two people.
Egg on their face,
no
as
good
you
reason.
said, yes.
So
Egg on their face.
At work,
that's a lot
if
to
we're
live with.
about to do something unusual in an operational sense, we have what's called a take two, which is where we all stop and we think about what we're about to do and what the potential risks could be. And I feel like at some point there needed to be a take two where they all just went, let's go hammer and tongs at each other. Let me just think. We don't normally do this.
Mindfulness,
Let's just
maybe.
think about what could go wrong here.
I like it.
You are absolutely right that no one did a risk assessment on any of this.
Yeah.
You're right.
God,
I agree.
just
All right,
nuts.
so I obviously, yes, bonkers. Do you get my double entendre on the
Yes,
bonk?
on the
Yeah,
head.
yeah.
I do. Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do. Except I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was going to be a sexy bonk. So I was.
No,
I'm,
Sex
no, I
bonk.
know.
I'm slightly
It was-
disappointed.
A bit Benny Hill.
It was tricksy. Well, it's
That-
funny you should say that because even that bit where they're all smashing up the house, I swear in my head I'm hearing
Yes.
you know, it's just
Definitely.
There was no real sex in this story,
crazy.
which is quite refreshing, really.
Oh,
Didn't
right.
need
I was
to.
going to say, sorry to not
So-
deliver on the
No,
sexy
not at all. I'm
type.
saying so often that's, the downfall or what happens, people just. But with this one, it's kind of the opposite because they're so fearful of it and being sinners that, kind of didn't
Well,
really.
we don't know that there was no sex.
I'm not saying that we don't know that. And as you say, perhaps she had that little thing with the
But
shoemaker.
it wasn't at the core of the story.
No.
Well, but I think what I was trying to get across is that it could have been at the core of the story. It could have been what drove her to be as crazy as she was in the end.
Yeah.
I think
Was
she.
this
I don't
conflict?
think so.
I think she
Okay.
got what's called splitter's karma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she became
Splitter's
a splitter.
karma.
Karma caught up with her. Yeah, it's probably a new term. I'm not sure that it's been used a whole lot in the past.
So Splitter's karma in your family context is when Carlton doesn't win the grand final. If you're the splitter,
Yeah, it's less. It's less. My brother and I get the hammers and tongs out and bash my sister's head in, or crucify her. But it's probably a little bit more like, Carlton have won more premierships than Collingwood, so suck shit loser.
Yeah, that's Splitter's karma in your household, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, obviously, because I did a bit of reading and I had some time to think about it, I do have a sentence for the people who were actively involved in the desecration of the house and then
The madding crowd.
The madding crowd, yeah. The murders of these two girls, even though whether they asked for it or not. And mine is that I would like, again, I'm going the community service angle. And I think that Heinrich, Ursula, John, Jacob, and the unnamed followers all need to be part of a housing system where they build houses for the poor because they smashed down a perfectly reasonable house. There was no need for any of that.
Yes.
So I think that they should build houses ongoing to give back to the society that they have taken away from. That's my sentence.
That's very productive.
It's true. I think maybe if the mother had been in the house, she would have put her foot down and said, "No, you will not be chopping up the furniture and you will not be
I
pulling the
beg
curtains and
pardon.
doing that." Yes.
Not on my watch.
Yeah.
Exactly, and but I also wonder if the mother hadn't died, if the whole story wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Because the mother died when she was very tiny.
Yes.
Or born, and I have a feeling she was a very naughty girl who was spoiled by her family also.
Yeah, right.
Mm.
I was thinking about the whole thing being like a frenzied shark attack, and what I'm wondering is for the ones who were part of the attack but might not have actually died in it, maybe what they should do is go diving with sharks and all have to splash or spill a vial of blood in the water while they're diving, and then they can all be part of the shark attack again and get frenzied again and just see who survives.
Yeah, it does have
That
that.
could work.
It does feel like that real out of control mob. Yeah,
Yeah, they
it
can
is a
get
frenzy.
jiggy with the sharks and see who survives.
Who
and
makes
if they
it out
survive,
alive.
well,
Yep.
that's it. They're done.
Well done. Yes. Okay. Exonerated. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And Carla?
Well, trying to go back to I don't know what's motivated these who accept sort of religion and whatever, but in terms of trying to get them into trial by wine world to use what we've got at our disposal.
Yes.
I kind of need to flip it because these people are opposite. That we've had so many debauched people who've done so many terrible things. These people think that they're not, and they just happen to have accidentally killed someone in the pursuit of doing the right thing. So perhaps we need to have Sin City within
Trial
by wine
yeah.
world. So we've got peasant world, peasant land. Then we can have Sin City where they're forced to go and participate and view
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yes, something where it will really make them feel that they're
uncomfortable.
Oh God, yeah,
very uncomfortable.
Very, very. So they can be sort of like puritanical people in a really rotten, dodgy's not strong enough, but in a world where it's just impossible.
Where everything
to exist.
around them is corrupt.
Correct.
Everything around them is corrupt, and they are the outliers and terribly uncomfortable.
Yeah, and they
cannot
escape it. So we know that they'll be being judged against their own criteria in terms of what makes you a sinner. Send them there. That would be their version of hell, I'm sure. So they're. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'll have to get the planning permits put in for trial by world to get that development done. But I think we've just expanded.
Can you play Waiting for Satan along up and down the streets as well, so that they can have to endure that shit?
Oh yeah, because he's still coming for you, ladies and gentlemen. He's still coming.
That's right. Yeah.
It ain't over yet. I know you just killed him, but it turns out you didn't win the final battle. It's yet to come.
You
so
just lost
whilst you wait, we'll put you in Sin City so we can find you nice and quickly, and the music will tell you that he's on his way. Just you wait.
Game on, moles.
Ding ding.
Game on, moles. Brilliant.
Okay. Just as an after a postscript, I do want to say that whilst I talked earlier about the Catholic Church and various churches, I, as a young person of around Margaretta's age, did consider myself taking up a vocation of being a nun. So I'm not anti-religion, as we know, and I'm not anti-devotion or vocation. And I would like to say that I have met some exceptional people who have devoted their lives to community and community service through the church. And I'm not church bashing whatsoever. So the comments I made earlier around the Catholic Church, though, I think I'm calling it out because it's a thing. It's real. And as a Catholic, I think we have to own it to get past it. So that's just my point.
Nice wrap-ups.
Good chat.
I like the fact that you've got your faith in the way you view it. I think I've talked to you about that a lot. And there's times when I've needed your faith to help me with different things when I was a bit younger. So there you go.
Back in the day.
Yes,
that's right.
That's true. What would Schmidty do?
Whatever that is.
Soap.
Do the opposite. Yeah, do the opposite. All right. Well, I hope that wasn't too heavy for you.
No.
Bit bonkers, bit crazy, bit violent.
Bit like tool work on the hammer.
Get on the tools.
Renos.
Yeah, we're all feeling quite fit after that.
Yeah, really energised. I suppose I miss you already.
Brilliant. Well done, Schmidty. That was
very
interesting.
Love you long time. That was really good. Well done.
Right.
Well done, Schmidty.
No worries.
Cheers, guys.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.